Okay, so let's just render our smoke buff thing. That should be super straightforward, probably. We had that set up for the most part anyway, and that one is going to be pretty low resolution anyway, and we're not going to do that much. It's just going to be an extra layer in comp, so we probably don't need to tweak as many elements with it. Just see what it looks like now in comp. Perfect. Let's keep it like that. Smoke buff. Just keep it at the basic settings. No need to overcomplicate it for this, because it's just a comp layer. So run out the disk, and let's do the embers then. So embers should probably also be pretty straightforward. Check just, yeah, I didn't really need AOVs in the smoke buff. Okay, so with the embers, oh, I don't have a ROP for that one specifically. So let me just copy and paste one. Call this one embers. So what do we want to include? And let's already call it embers in here. Let's say just what do we want to include in that? Let's go RNDR embers. And forced phantom. And anyway, we wanted that to be the pyro, right? So let's go to embers. Let's just render it, see what it looks like. So that looks good, apart from the fact we need to mat it out. So let's do, let's just take the mats from the terrain we have, or from the pyro. Oh, it's not pinned to anything anymore. Let's pin this to the second one. Let's go to, put those in there, put the mat objects in there. So the main thing we need to consider for this render is maybe only the uniform samples, but we already put those up a little bit because unified sampling is used for motion blur. So those are those elements. We can take out the AOVs. We don't really need any AOVs on this, and AOVs will also just slow down your render a little bit. And for just a particle render like this, we don't really need AOVs. You could include custom AOVs, for example, if like you could make a custom AOV for like the velocity, if you want to do something with that. Again, that would just be binding the velocity in the material, like we did with the UV as well, and then just writing it out as a custom attribute. But this looks fine. It's being matted out properly now. So let's disable this. And all right. So let's just embers. Let's just render a frame. I'm noticing, by the way, is apparently I didn't render my pyro from the correct camera, because we used a different camera for testing that out. So need to re-render that one. As you can see, that's a smaller resolution. So I'm gonna fix that real quick using the actual RNDR cam. But the ember's finished now. So let's just can remove this frame from the. Alright, let's render pyro again. Okay, so another element that we still need to do, which we haven't made yet, is the shockwave. So that's going to be, where is it? It's over here somewhere. Shockwave. So it's just going to be a couple frames. Well, we need to still make that. It's quite simple. So let's just make a node. Say RNDR shockwave. Essentially what we just want to do is no, not an ocean spectrum. I always, when I type sphere, it's like sometimes I just accidentally type spectrum. Okay, so what we want to do is just move this up a little bit. Let's make it a polygon sphere and crank up the thing. All right, so we need to kind of visualize our pyro, our rock explode, to sort of be able to tell the timing for this. So it's going to explode here. So let's say that our sphere is going to be very small over here because, I mean, nothing exploded yet. And then explosion happens. And of course, our shockwave should sort of precede that whole thing. So let's say that in these couple of frames, it's going to grow all the way up like that. So shockwave, we need to trill it. Let's do one where it sort of preserves the original. So then we get like a second, so then it's gonna trail one frame backward and we get a sort of a second layer in the middle. Okay, then we do another trail and that trail is gonna compute the velocity. Because of course we need motion blur for this. So then we'll have motion trails. And let's make a material for this. Our material builder. Let's go in there. And let's just create a preset for our something like glass. Call it shockwave. Shockwave. All right, there we go. Plug it in there. Let's turn on motion blur. Let's make it a little bit rough. Let's go out. Make another WOP. Don't really need AOVs for this one, so let's just remove those. Oh man, this bug turns me absolutely crazy. It happens so often. Shockwave. Let's just drag RNDR shockwave. Where is it? Oh. Perfect. Those we need to force vent and we need RNDR pyro because we need to be able to see the pyro as well. Okay. And let's turn on a little bit of tessellation so it's at least a smooth sphere. Now let's just see how this looks in our render. Let's just go and out. Let's make sure that everything is correct. RNDR cam, sure. Shockwave. Okay, so we do have the shockwave. Oh, okay, there it is. Thought that we didn't have the. So this already looks pretty good. You might need to tweak some of these samples. Let's see what we have. Brute force GI. So probably the samples that we have for this are already good. Actually looks pretty cool like this. Let's render. Okay, so cannot really exactly render this frame because of course let's put it to frame range. This starts later, so let's say frame 15 to frame 30. So I think then we have all of the elements. Let me just double check. Yeah, I think we have everything. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to render a couple of frames with this setup. Then we're going to start composting with this, and then I'm going to switch out my renders with my original things. But then at least you can sort of see how all of the other stuff works. So we need to sort of chain up these things so they can render one after another.